And the fact is that whatever content you're choosing needs to tie back to what your main goals are for your business and what you're trying to achieve and who you're trying to reach. And that is really important. Where we like to start our business owners with is really, what are your key objectives? What are you trying to achieve? And who are you trying to reach?
Welcome back to the Talking Web Marketing podcast with myself, Ilana Wexler. This is a show where we reveal the best tips, tricks and tactics to increasing your website traffic and then converting that traffic into leads and sales. We also discuss what's working right now in the ever-changing world of web marketing so you can apply it to your business. Ilana Wexler here with another episode of Talking Web Marketing. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about content marketing, a bit more specifically how to succeed with content marketing in 2018. If you've been in the marketing industry for a little while, you've probably heard the term content marketing and sort of it's important for your business. So this episode, we're going to go into the basics of content marketing and importantly, how you can use it in its ever-changing world, because as you can probably well imagine, it's a changing industry. So it's important to get these fundamentals right, but also know what's currently working now. So to talk about this, I've invited a guest on today's show to give her insights on this topic, as she really is a leader in this space. So her name is Susie Daphnis, and she's going to be sharing how she has successfully used content marketing to build her business, which is actually called HerBusiness, to over 30,000 community members who are small business owners. So building such a community of a huge number of people is an amazing achievement, and I'm sure you'll agree, given her success. She has a lot of tips and insights to provide on this topic. So let's get stuck into today's show. Welcome to today's show, Susie Daphnis. We're going to be talking about how to succeed with content marketing in 2018. So welcome to today's show.
Thank you. I'm very excited. This is one of my favorite topics.
Yay! Awesome. Probably because you guys are so prolific at it. So
we're a content machine.
You are a content machine. I like the way you put that. All right. So for those of you who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about, her business, which is your business, and the work that you do with kind of small businesses?
Great. So my name is Susie Daphnis. I'm the CEO of HerBusiness.com, and we're an online community that provides training and mentoring and resources for women who are growing their own business. And we tend to focus mostly on marketing. That's usually the entry point, how people find us. We do a lot in that area, but we're helping them, systemize, leverage their businesses, build their teams all across business. But quite often they start by coming to us because they're looking to get more customers and get more engagement, or as what we're talking about today is they know they need to be creating content, but they really don't know where to start.
And I think many business owners are so overwhelmed, like they've got so much coming at them, and they've got to do Facebook posts and they've got to do XYZ, and content marketing is something that people find really, really time consuming. So I guess, I'm interested in to kind of delve a little bit deeper with you about how you've used content marketing to build your amazing community of, I think, 30,000 members or something amazing. So that's an amazing achievement. And I think it really harnesses the power that content marketing can have in one's business. So do you maybe want to kind of get started in, I guess, the approach that you initially took and sort of what it takes now to start out with content marketing?
So we've been creating content for a long time. I think we did our first e-newsletter in 1997, where a lot of people still didn't have email addresses, and we launched our website about that time. But over the years, we've always adopted the new ways. So we had a blog very early on, 2008, I think it was. We've done webinars, podcasts, live streams, teleclasses, ebooks, downloads, checklists, cheat lists, all those things, sometimes all at the same time.
Wow.
But we've tried different things. So for the longest time, webinars were a really great community builder for us, generating a lot of leads. They were pretty new. We were really nailing the topics that were relevant for business owners, and we were getting up to 1,000 people signing up. These days, there's a lot more out there, but we still do them. And one of the things I want to talk about today is you don't actually need too much content. I think where people get confused and overwhelmed is that they think they need to be on all the platforms doing all the different types. And the fact is that whatever content you're choosing needs to tie back to what your main goals are for your business and what you're trying to achieve and who you're trying to reach. And that is really important. Where we like to start our business owners with is really, what are your key objectives? What are you trying to achieve? And who are you trying to reach?
And where is that person online? What platform?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Where is that person as well? Because, I mean, you and I both know that you can find your ideal customer on most platforms, but you have to be creating content that really speaks to the pain points or the solutions that ideal client is trying to overcome.
So let's pretend, for our listeners, if you haven't really started at all with content marketing, you touched on kind of identifying who your target audience would be. So I would imagine that would be step one for someone.
That would always be step one. I think in anything that we do with marketing, with starting a business, with growing a business, with deciding what products we're going to have and what content we're going to publish, is going, who is this for? And so that any content we create is speaking to them specifically.
Yes. Okay. So once you've established who you're talking to and where they are online, what would you say is the next best place to take it?
I think one of the things that you can start with is finding what comes naturally to you or what comes easier. Because if going on a Facebook Live is a huge barrier for you, you're probably not likely to do it. Yes. But if you're more accustomed to writing, then writing social posts or Facebook posts or ebooks or that sort of thing might be great. If you're great at speaking live, then maybe Facebook Live and live event. Like a live event is content, right? Creating a presentation that you're going to get on someone's stage or your own stage, that is also content. One of the mantras that we have and that we have on our Content Sells podcast is no content without conversion. And we say that because we can get scattered in so many directions, creating a bit of this, bit of that with no purpose. And I know we were doing this for the longest time. We were getting thousands of people into our webinars. We would put on a great show and we would never ask for anything. There was no call to action.
No offer.
No offer. Nothing, no next step. We would hope that they would leave us a nice testimonial at the end and that they would like it enough to immediately map over in their minds that what we really wanted them to do was sign up to our newsletter or join our membership. But we weren't actively, because we didn't want to pitch, we didn't want to ask for the sale. And I find so many people either go overboard on the pitching or don't give people a clear call to action. And that goes across all your content. And I was speaking to a business owner yesterday. She's an insurance broker and she's been paying a digital agency to create all these articles for her on LinkedIn. And there's no conversion. There's no call to action. There's no link to what she wants people to do next. And so I said to her, okay, you need to rein it in. Stop paying money to publish content that doesn't have a clear conversion activity.
So I think you're right.
I think that's your question.
Yeah, I think you touched on an important point of like thinking about the end goal first and then tailoring your content to facilitate that end goal and being obvious and upfront with what you want people to do next.
Right. So you might have one great piece of content. Now, this is your hero content. So say you had a live presentation or a great download or a webinar presentation or a blog post. If that one thing did what it was meant to do and created leads for you and created warm leads of the ideal client, and then you had a sales process behind that, then you only need one piece of content. You then go about finding lots of different audiences. So say you had a great live presentation. You want to get on as many stages as possible with that same presentation once you find that piece of content converts. You don't have to have 10 presentations. Yeah, you just need one offer that converts. And a friend of yours and mine, James Franco, is a big proponent of that. Create an offer that converts. And that can be one awesome piece of content.
Yes, and I think you're right in that leveraging that one piece into many different forms or even the same form for a different audience. Like this myth or misconception is that you need to constantly keep reinventing it, and reinventing it it's just not the case.
And you bring up a great point about repurposing. So quite often when we'll do a webinar, we'll have it transcribed. That'll create a blog post or sometimes multiple blog posts. That will then be the source of social posts that we then create images for. That could become a download. That could become a live presentation. So we're creating it once and using it multiple times. Yes. And I think that is, it sounds really obvious when you hear it, but so often we're like, okay, I did that, now I'm going to do the next thing, rather than thinking, how do I repurpose that? Can I take that blog post and read it and make an audio of it and put slides over it and stick that on YouTube? Like there is so many ways to repurpose what we've already got.
Exactly. You deal a lot with small business, and I would imagine that some people being, I don't know, a local chiropractor, for example, might be thinking, what content could I create as a local chiropractor, So I guess, how do you find that you tap into some good content ideas that you can sort of really generate, because it's one thing, in the internet marketing industry, there's an endless supply of content ideas, but for a local chiropractor or a dentist, for example,
right.
the challenge
I
might be
love that
different.
example. I love it because it's very specific. So if I was a chiropractor, I would be doing a few things. One is, what is it that I know that, sometimes we can be our own worst enemy in that we think people know what we know and we forget the beginner's mind. But as a chiropractor, I might be saying, is the seat that you sit on 8 hours a day helping your back, or is it causing you back pain? What sort of pillows might be the best for, alleviating neck pain, or 3 stretches you can do in 3 minutes that'll take that pain away. Look at what it is that you're solving every day. The other thing is our customers and what the questions we're getting all the time, they are perfect thought starters for our content. And if I was a chiropractor, I might also think about, what are the different ways that I can demonstrate that? You might be able to do a short video, and you might have a willing participant who might be a client or one of your staff, where you're showing the way to sit, the way to stand, the way that you might adjust someone that's very unique to you. It could be customer stories. Customer stories are great content. So one of the best ways that we can demonstrate the value that we bring is through telling our client stories. And so you could be creating content that might be a testimonial, but it could also be a case study. Right now, we are rolling out a series of case study videos that we're actually putting money behind on Facebook. And these are 3 to 4 minute videos about our clients. There's no sale, there's no pitch. It's just telling the story of this. Our audience is women business owners. And it tells the story of these women, why they started their business, what makes an ideal business for them. And then somewhere in the story, without mentioning us, they'll talk about the fact that at some point they committed to their education and they committed to finding mentors and to getting really focused on their marketing in their business. And once they did that, how their business changed. Now, you could make it more pitchy than that. You could have them make it a testimonial about you. But either way, you could use your customer stories to create content.
I think you touched on a really important point, and it's storytelling and incorporating story into sort of weaving it through your content, because it's so relatable. And, it's a known copywriting mechanism of facilitating a story. So that's a great application, I think, of it.
I've never felt I was a natural storyteller. And I know that sometimes people can get hung up on that. It's like, well, I don't know what a good story is, or I don't know how to tell a story. But what I've found works is that stream of consciousness edited of, when did something like that happen to you and what did you do about it? So just this morning, yesterday afternoon, I was at the hairdresser and I got an inspiration to write a blog post, and it was nothing to do with getting my hair done. But
That's a shame.
But it could have been, right?
Yeah.
It could have been. But it was actually about the idea of saying no to something so that you can say yes to other things. And why was I telling you this? Oh, my gosh. Storytelling, yeah. And because I had a real situation where right now, as we're recording, I would normally be in the US attending one of my favorite conferences called South by Southwest. And it's a place that has been the source of so much content for me. I've met authors and speakers and people I've interviewed, etc. And it's an annual kind of event. But this year, because we're currently working on a brand new program for our women business owners, a marketing program, I had to prioritize that because we're launching in a few weeks' time. And it took so much to say no. But sometimes in life we have to say no because we've only got so much time, so much energy. It's the same with creating content. What am I going to say no to so I can say yes to other things? And so I said no to this thing that is one of my favorite things to do because I'm working on something that's really important. So that story, that became storytelling.
Yes.
That became a way of me telling people about something that was going on in my life, but being able to map that over in a piece of content that had them be able to relate to, what might I need to say no to say yes to more of the things that I want in my life?
Interesting. You touched on before about how you had created these video stories and then you were promoting them on Facebook, which kind of like leads me to the next part of content marketing, this whole myth that build it and they will come, which you and I laugh at.
Nowhere.
So I'm interested in sort of touching on, that whole concept of, you created the content. I mean, I've heard a few statistics out there of people, people saying you should spend 20% of your time rather generating and producing that content and 80% on the promotion of it. So how do you apply content promotion in your business?
That is absolutely right. I have people who create content in the form of websites. I see this a lot with business owners, and they're creating content, but nobody's on the site. So because they're not running ads to specific blog posts they've written, or they're not driving traffic and they're depending on that website to bring in business. So a website for a small business owner, a site that doesn't get a lot of traffic, cannot be relied on to bring in business, right? So you need to have a traffic strategy, right? So you need to have a way to get people there. And sometimes that'll be because you're driving them from your page on Facebook or through your email newsletter or emails you're sending. Or it could be like, I'm here on your podcast. I might be driving people to that website, because you're going to give them a URL. I might be on stage somewhere and I mention the website. So you have to think about, how am I getting eyeballs to that? Or you could be paying someone like Facebook to send.
I guess the idea would be very targeted. You're not going to just put it in front of everyone on Facebook. You're going to apply it, to certain types of interest groups and location.
And that's where knowing who that ideal client is, who you're trying to target with that piece of content, is so important, because something like Facebook allows you to get really granular around who you're showing that ad to. And the more specific you can be, the warmer that audience, the less you're going to pay ultimately, right?
That's right. So what would you say, within your business, because you guys have been so prolific with it, have been your best forms of content promotion? Like, 2018, the world has changed from 10 years ago. What do you find has been a successful form of content promotion these days?
So for us, what's really working so far this year, and I know we're only 2 and a bit months into it, but what is working great is video. And so we've had, just in the last few weeks, like 76,000 views on our videos, which is fantastic. Now, those videos are short form, like they're under 5 minutes. They actually have no pitch, believe it or not, but there is some method in our madness. But what they're doing is saying, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is what we believe in. They're very values-based, and what we're trying to get people to just understand who we are and what we stand for, so that if they come into our Her Business world, into our community, whether they like our page or they join our database, they know what they can expect from us. Then we're telling these case studies, and we are actually, they're spreading organically because they're very easy to spread, because they don't have a big pitch in them, but we're also putting some money on them. So that's really working to build us a warm audience that we can then remarket to, and we do have something to sell. The other thing, which, we're dipping our toe in still, I feel like I've totally got my training wheels on, is with Facebook Lives. But just in the last 6 months, we have been able to sell from Facebook Lives, actually make sales. But that's taken knowing who the ideal client is, really crafting a message that's speaking to them, designing the Facebook Live like we would a webinar that converts or any other presentation that converts, and getting as many eyeballs on that as we could, some organically, some paid. So I would say those two things are probably top of mind for us right now.
Yeah, so really kind of Facebook side of things.
Yeah, I guess they absolutely both are. Now, we are putting the videos on YouTube and, sending emails to our database to encourage them as well. But yeah, it really is a Facebook-focused strategy for us right now.
Yeah, interesting. So, I mean, I guess, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make? So you mentioned before not having a call to action.
Right, that content without conversion, the building it and they will come, and the trying to be in too many places and spreading themselves very thin rather than going deep.
Kind of like what you're doing with Facebook,
Right.
You've just gone deep on Facebook.
Yeah. And so last year, going back to the idea of saying no, we used to have 3 podcasts. We now have 1.
Interesting.
And one's lying dormant. It'll come back when it has a purpose. We had a weekly community newsletter for 20 years, believe it or not, that we have sidelined because it just wasn't doing what it was doing, but it was still taking 3 staff time to write it, design it, get it into Infusionsoft, into our customer, management service, send it out, et cetera, et cetera. So we just killed it. We went, okay, it's not worth it. And so less is definitely more when it comes to content and getting really, really focused. So we still have an email strategy. It's one of the ways that we, the business makes money through email, probably more than anything else.
Yes.
But we have a very specific email strategy. So we're not emailing less. We might be emailing as much, but we're very specific with keeping what you said earlier, that end in mind. Yep. What is it that we want people to do? What is the next step? What sort of questions can we be answering? What is the content that they're telling us they want to hear about? Because one, they're putting it on our live chat on our website. They're asking the questions in our webinars. They're asking the questions at our mastermind event, on our courses, on our podcast page. So really paying attention. Or because we're doing surveys, which we do at least a couple of times a year, where we do surveys to really understand what the pain points are. And that is one of the mistakes I see, is that the content is irrelevant, not really speaking to the specific person you want to be speaking to. The other thing is, as I said, spreading yourself too thin and not repurposing. Yes. So before you go writing 10 more blog posts, I would go, okay, do I have, looking at your stats, looking at what's done well and going, okay, they like that piece I did about, how to train your dog without using treats. Great. I'm going to create one more just like that because I know that was popular, as opposed to now creating something about dog collars, for instance, like really paring it back. But that no content without conversion is just really keeping the end in mind. And quite often it's like throwing things at a wall. One day I'm doing a Facebook post, one day I'm, using this sort of image. So consistency is the other mistake.
Yeah.
Having people know that you're always live on Facebook on a Monday, or that they expect your newsletter on a Wednesday, that your podcast is out on a Tuesday, just being consistent in your communication. And so that way, it doesn't matter that you're communicating a lot as long as it's relevant and consistent.
Do you, touching on a bit further on that consistency aspect, do you find that you guys have like a content calendar, for example, where it's all mapped out ahead, what you're going to be creating and when?
Great. So every Thursday we have a newsletter to a particular part of our database. I know that by Tuesday I'm going to see the rough outline. I know on Wednesday we're testing, on Thursday it goes out. That's a process, and all the various tasks. And there might be 20 tasks to put together one newsletter. They're all inside a project management software, and they're all allocated to different people with deliverable dates. I know that our Content Sales podcast comes out every Tuesday, and again, all the tasks leading up to that are allocated to the right person, the right time. When we've got specific promotions, like right now, the new marketing course that we're launching in April 2018, that has a content calendar that spans weeks. So and months actually. So our content started in January and it concludes in April. And so it's mapped out what the content, what day it's coming out, and then what it is. Is it video? Is it a social post? Is it a blog post? Is it an email? What day is it going out? To what segment of the database is it going to? And now we're drilling into the minutiae. Yeah. So while we're in the background, a couple of team members are working on the videos. Other people are starting to work on the landing pages, so the sales pages. Other people are working on scripts for upcoming things. We're scheduling everything. So yes, we do have a content calendar, because you want to, unless you have it mapped out, it's really hard to get help.
Yeah, and I guess you've just highlighted the importance of having a plan. And then it can be really structured, and it's actually not overwhelming then, because in one session you map out the plan, and then, as you say, you go into the minutiae.
Right. The plan is everything. If you're in business, having a plan, even if it's a crappy plan, is better than no plan at all. I don't know if I'm allowed to say crap on your podcast,
yeah, you can.
But I've just said it twice. And so having any plan is better than no plan. And a plan starts with the end in mind. What am I trying to do in my business? What am I trying to do with this particular campaign? What am I trying to do with this particular product release? And really starting with the end in mind and mapping it out. And those of us who are like more organic and we like to do things on the fly, that's all great, but it's really hard to bring a team along, to outsource, to leverage if it's all organic and not planned. And you might set the big picture and get someone else to drill into the detail and map out the tasks and assign them and put deadlines to things. But having a plan is so important, because especially with the content, if you can see it all, you can see, oh, you know what, we're really going heavy on our database that week, or, we're going to post 20 times that day on our Facebook page. That's not good. Or maybe it is good. I don't know. It depends on your page. But do you know what I mean? Unless you can see it in linear form and can map all the various promotional activities over each other, you'll never have an idea, am I overloading the team? Am I overloading myself? Is it humanly possible to do this in the time that I've given myself? So absolutely having a plan around your content marketing is so important.
Interesting. The last point I wanted to touch on is, you sort of mentioned, or we've both talked about sort of having the end in mind, and therefore there's an ability to reverse engineer what is working and what content does actually drive those results and that ultimate goal versus what content doesn't. So I'm a bit of a data person. So from a tracking point of view, do you use Google Analytics? Like, how do you find you can really identify the contents that are the small hinges that are moving those big doors?
That is a really great question. So with something like blog or our website, yes, Google Analytics, we look at, so we've got thousands of posts. We've had a blog. But just recently we went and found what were our top 100 blog posts. And because we didn't have any strong calls to action in our posts for the longest time, that was one of our big mistakes.
When you say top 100, do you mean by views?
By views, yeah.
By views, yep.
Yeah, and so we categorized them. So we said top 100, what are the topics? And we found that there were 7 or 8 different topics: marketing, finances, people, money, whatever they were. And then we created a content upgrade. So we created, just to use sort of layman's terms, we created some sort of call to action, some lead magnet, some next step for people, depending on what the topic of the article was.
Yep.
So in all the marketing ones have a free download that is about doing your ideal customer profile, right? Because that relates to marketing. On the finance one, we have a simple budget, etc.
So a unique content upgrade for that blog post.
Well, it's unique to the category of blog post.
Okay.
So that's how we sort of fudged it. Yes, you could have a different one for everyone, but who has time?
Totally.
We thought if we have one for each of the key topics, then we can definitely do that. I've now forgotten your question.
Tracking.
Okay. So then Google Analytics allowed us to find out what the top posts are. When we're spending money on Facebook, we can very easily see what's working and what's not working. Same with on our page and our posts with the insights that Facebook gives us. We do track our email click-through rates and open rates. That's an area of our business I want to pay a whole lot more attention to. It's like really segmenting the database more so that we're delivering more relevant information to the right part. So if you've just started your business, that you'll get different communications than if you're in full momentum and you're just looking, for hacks to organize more, leverage more, those sorts of things. So we're in the process of that. Now that's a little more advanced, but when you're just starting out, you do want to look at what's working. Like we are about to split test 2 different free downloads that we've designed specifically with a ideal customer in mind who is at a particular level in her business, and we're going to split test the 2, and then whichever one seems to be most popular, we will put more dollars on.
Yes, and scrap the one that doesn't, probably.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well, I am mindful of the time, and I know you're a very busy person, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. So where can people find out more information about you and what you offer people?
Right. So our website is simply herbusiness.com. Just like it sounds. But I also think, just based on what we've been talking about today, and thank you again so much for the opportunity to talk about it. I could talk about this all day.
The pleasure is mine, Susie.
If people are just starting out in content marketing and they want like a step-by-step, a great place to go is Content Sells Podcast. And I would start right at episode number 1. We're now at number 75, and just start with the very beginning. Who am I speaking to? And every episode is like a mini training on content marketing. So you can't go wrong. And we do, answer audience questions. So if you get started and you think, you know what, I'm creating this and I'm a little bit stuck, then my co-host, Michelle Thousand, and I are really happy to answer listener questions.
Yeah, so awesome.
That would contentsellspodcast.com.
Perfect. So, Susie, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. I feel like I could talk to you forever, so maybe we'll get you on for another show.
I would love that. Thank you again so much, and great job with the podcast. Love it.
Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Talking Web Marketing. I really hope you enjoyed it and got a lot of value out of it. And importantly, it's given you some ideas of how you can apply it to your business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a PDF available for you to download, which will contain the tips that Susie and I talk about with content marketing, as well as the mistakes that people make so that you can implement it. So how do you get it? Just go to talkingwebmarketing.com. You will actually be redirected to my own website called Green Arrow Digital, but it'll take you to the podcast section on my website, and then you can just find that episode there. So just easiest way is to remember talkingwebmarketing.com, and we'll see you there. If you enjoyed today's show, I'd love to hear about it by you leaving a iTunes review. It would really mean the world to me. And yeah, stay tuned for the future episodes.